Beasts of the Southern Wild is co-written and directed by Ben Zeitlin, and it stars two newcomers, Dwight Henry and a little girl whose name I cannot pronounce to save my own life. It tells the story of a little girl living with her father in the Bathtub, which is a southern Delta community at the edge of the world. When her dad becomes ill, bad stuff starts happening and she goes off in search of her long-lost mother. I had a very hard time figuring out my grade for this film because I'm not entirely sure what to make of it. I sought this film out kind of because of the trailer, but mostly because Peter Travers, the movie critic for Rolling Stone, gave this film a perfect 4 out of 4. He doesn't do that very often. In fact, the last time he did that was Drive, oddly enough. I'm gonna do my best to stop mentioning that film in my reviews like Spy Kids 4. It's gone too far. Not a ton happens, and not a ton of things make sense. There are a lot of things presented to you without a backstory or an explanation, and I had a hard time really enjoying this film because throughout the film I just had so many questions that were going through my mind, and none of them were answered or even brought up. And none of the townspeople who are in this film really have any depth. We don't get to know them as characters, and that made me feel very disconnected and not really care. Watching this film is like watching the Harry Potter films, but they never give you the backstory of Harry's parents. They just expect you to figure it out, and nowhere in any of the 7 films is it brought up. Might not be the best example, but that's the best I can do. I'd imagine that watching this film for some of you will be like watching The Tree of Life. There's very beautiful imagery, some harsh and tender moments, but the overall film is just very hard to deconstruct and interpret. I'd recommend seeing it at least once, and then if you like it enough, then watch it again. I don't think it's a masterpiece like everyone else is saying it is, but I don't think it's a bad movie either, so I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5 stars. It's one of those films where I think it requires more than one viewing, but I don't see myself watching it again because it didn't do anything for me emotionally. Much like The Tree of Life, it makes you think. However, I just don't know if I want to think about this film. That's my take anyway.